Morning, I'm in Springfield now, where 14 area youth entered the Shark Tank. It's a show on ABC. Small little promotion there. Yesterday, to pitch their entrepreneurial ideas to local business leaders. The By Youth for Youth Entrepreneurial Pitch Challenge kicked off at 10 yesterday morning at UMass's Henry M. Thomas III Center and lasted until 3 in the afternoon. The challenge marks the culmination of the first half of a 20-week program to connect youth ranging from ages 13 to 22 with industry professionals. Zane Foster, he's the program manager for Follow My Steps Foundation. He told us why this event is important to help the kids grow.
Entrepreneurship is just a perfect way for youths to really learn about things that they're interested in a structured way so that you can really have a natural didactic process.
Here, Alan, I want you to meet him. He competed at yesterday's event and pitched his streetwear clothing brand to the 7 judges. He talked to us about how Follow My Steps helped him.
The most challenging thing was the way of forming all the information together and forming like financials and stuff. But once I joined Follow My Steps, everything became a breeze. They helped me with all that, and it definitely built the brand up.
All right, I'm going to make a deal here. History of Western Mass News making right now. Sincere, if you're watching this show, if you make that streetwear brand, I will make you a promise. I will wear a piece of your streetwear clothing right here on our show this weekend. How about that? I will make that promise for you right now. For more information about the program and other programs and services offered by Follow My Steps, head to their website, followmysteps.org. I'm going to be looking for you, Sincere. All right, coming up here.